Rosie, good morning, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, thank you.
When you hear that headline I've just read about the Commission for Gender Equality asking the private sector to be involved, what do you think?
Absolutely. You know, last year at the Gender Summit, our President acknowledged that our country's in a crisis. Now, you look at organizations such as Power, People Opposing Women Abuse, they've been around for 40 years. That means 40 years ago we had a crisis. So it's not just about activists on the ground doing their bit. It's not just about survivors and victims on the ground doing their bit. It's about the private sector, it's about the public sector, and of course government. In my intro to my program this morning at 9 o'clock, I mentioned the fact that recently we saw this uproar, outrage went out publicly, especially after the killing of Uyinene Mrwetyana in Cape Town. Women taking to the streets of our country, and some men as well joining that. I made the point that the President has made promises of emergency measures that you're taking. When you look at what's been done, are you satisfied with the progress that's being made? Not at all. We've been asking these demands for many, many years. There's an uproar now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there's just been a rise in gender-based violence. Gender-based violence has been happening for many, many years. As I mentioned, organizations like Power have been around for 40 years. Some other organizations even longer. So we need immediate action. We need more stronger reactions and monitoring at our police stations. You know, stats will go out and say, well, there's been a decrease in cases being reported. Those are cases being reported. Doesn't mean the crimes aren't happening. We need also more, the media also needs to change the attitude in terms of how they're approaching gender-based violence, how they are protecting, and in a lot of the cases, protecting perpetrators, how victim blaming comes about. So we need a proper shift, a proper shake, and we need more resources. You know, one of the other issues is that we don't have enough social workers, we don't have enough psychologists or counselors. You know, organizations might offer counseling, but usually it's maximum of 6 times. If you've been through a horrific ordeal, it's going to take a lot more than 6 counseling sessions.
I've seen comments now and again when we deal with issues of gender-based violence that say it all begins in the home, how we bring up the boys or the boy child, as it's said now. What is the role of men in this?
Yeah, the role of men is first to acknowledge that we're in a crisis. You know, you speak to so many women, and every woman is connected to somebody who has been abused. But when you speak to men, suddenly they don't know who the rapists are. So men need to stand up. They need to, and we need to relearn, perhaps. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Relearn what abuse is. Relearn what consent is. And then call each other out. What conversations are you having in the locker room? What conversations are you having when you're having drinks with the boys and so forth? If you see them acting in a certain way, what are you doing?
I was about to say, we tend to turn a blind eye sometimes to some of these seeds that you can see are going to grow into full-blown abuse and violence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a quote that I read about a week ago saying, well, if your daughter were to be dating you when you were at the age of 16, 17, would you be okay? Would you be comfortable? And a lot of my guy friends turned around and they were like, actually they wouldn't, because of the atrocious behaviors and the things that they did to women and how they still see women and the objectification of women. So those are other issues. And we also, we know, I think one thing I need to bring into this is that gender-based violence isn't just about women. Gender-based violence is violence against humanity, against human beings.
This point has been made as well by other people in the human rights fraternity who are saying that it's about the human rights more than anything else.
Yeah, nobody's talking about the violence that is happening in the trans community, the violence that is happening in the black lesbian community, because a lot of women and trans people aren't going in and reporting cases because of the secondary victimization that's happening at police stations. You know, cases of, and I'm going to say it and it's going to be pretty harsh, is that police even saying to a survivor, saying, well, you don't look like a woman who would want to rape you. So that is another level of and this is a reality that's happening on the ground. So when we say that we need stronger actions from our government and police, it's monitoring those type of things as well.
I mean, we are told time and time and again, Rosie, that we've got world-class laws, got a world-class constitution, but we are not implementing it, we're not enforcing it. And you've just pointed out about the lack of good training and approach by the police. They don't seem to have it.
You know what, the issue, I'm sorry, I think they've looked at the training as an excuse for too long. You know, for so many organizations have worked with various police stations, but yet you still, just last week we had a survivor going into one police station. Policewoman was saying, well, I'm going off in 15 minutes, I don't feel like opening a case, can you go to another police station?
What do you think is driving? What are your activists, your fellow activists telling? Why would we still have that attitude now, like last week, when we're having this emergency crisis in the country?
You know what, we're still driven by patriarchal ideologies. And whether we like it or not, we have to rethink what we're saying to ourselves first and then to our children, because that is a message that is pushed across. So when you, at home, what gender equality do you have in the home? Is your little son sitting and playing while your daughter has to go clean the kitchen? You know, what messages are we sending? Are we telling our little girls that they need to always look pretty, otherwise they're not going to marry a rich man? Or we've been enforcing the fact that, well, you could become a doctor or a lawyer? What messages are we telling our sons that, you know, doctors or lawyers or judges can only be men?
Is this a winnable cause? Can we win? Can we overcome?
We can, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's not just about activists stepping up. It's about everybody. It's about a total mind shift as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Rosie Motene, gender activist here. As we start today, of course, the 16 Days of Activism campaign.